My name is Robert Wood. I am a professor of kinesiology at New Mexico State University. I received my PhD in kinesiology from Louisiana State University in 1996. And for the last 15 years, I've devoted my work to exploring functional lifespan, longevity, preventing functional decline in late life, maintaining independence, and falls prevention.
The good news is people are now living well into their 70s. But the problem is we're not dying until we're in our 80s or 90s. So much of what we see today and the messages that we hear is that life really ends before you die. And that's not true.
The earlier studies about 40, 50 years ago demonstrated the effects of age on our ability to do physical work and remain independent. And what we have learned over the last 30, 40 years is that about half of what we attributed to age is believed now to be due to inactivity. In other words, if you're not active, you're going to decline at twice the rate as someone who is.
Anybody heard of Marjorie Newland? Anyone want to guess how old this woman is in this picture? This woman is 85 years old in this picture. 85. She did not start being regularly physically active until she was 72 years old. So at 85, she was winning bodybuilding competitions. But so many people, even at the ripe old age of 45 and 50, will say it's too late to start. But the truth is, the person that has not been active has the most to gain by becoming active. The saying is, if you're over 65, look to your left, look to your right. One of the three of you will fall this year. If you're over 80 years old, then just look to your right and look at each other, because one of you's gonna fall. That's the odds. This is what happens. You fall, so you become anxious about being physically active. And because you're anxious about being physically active, you're not as active. And if you're not as active, then you get weaker. And you get weaker, you're more likely to fall. And you fall. And you become more anxious. And you get weaker, so you become less active, so you fall. And there's this downward spiral.
And what we're hoping to provide for older adults is to provide them with opportunities to be active in settings where they can understand what their limitations are, what they can do safely, and what they should not attempt to do, thereby increasing their confidence in their ability to be as active as possible and therefore stay as independent as possible.
One of the top risk factors is getting medications at more than one pharmacy. For some people, we'll get this drug online, this drug at Walmart, this drug at Rite Aid. Why? Because you can get it cheaper that way. But if you don't have one pharmacist that's reviewing all of your medications, then you're putting yourself at risk because of drug-drug interactions. If you're having side effects from medications, you need to let your physician know this. Something that's emerging from the screenings that we do, some of the information that we're gathering, that the more medications you're on, the more important it is to be physically active. Another reason is vision. If you hear the optometrist say, I think you can go another year with those lenses, translate that into, I better get some new lenses. And the number one reason that we see falls is loss of physical function. And this occurs for a variety of reasons. One is that we stop using our inner ear because we lose some of the ability of these little cells called hair cells, starting at about age 40. Part of the reason we start losing them is because we stop using them. As we get older, one thing that we see is that we don't turn our head as much. One thing that you could do that doesn't get your hair messy, doesn't get you sweaty, is just turn your head more. Our vision gets poor. What happens to peripheral vision? It gets narrower. Some of you probably experienced that. But interestingly, we rely on it more. We lose it, but we rely on it more. How does that work? Well, the reason we rely on it more is because we don't turn our head. And so we need to practice utilizing these things, otherwise we lose them. So we're doing some work. Some of you have had a chance to come visit with us.
We are really excited about the work that we're doing in the Reduced Gravity and Biomechanics Lab with the Engineering Department at New Mexico State University. Because of this collaboration, we're able to do some very sensitive analyses of gait patterns of older adults and explore some new territory to try and identify particular patterns of gait that put older adults at risk for falls.
I want you to watch this woman walking, okay? And this woman has had some problem with falls. And I want you to look at her feet. And I want you to notice that her toe hardly comes up off the ground, and her toe rarely ever gets higher than her heel. But this is our lovely student, Samantha. And you'll notice when she walks that her toe gets above her heel, as opposed to our participant over there who kind of throws the foot forward. This is sort of a natural response that we see to not just aging, but inactivity. So the question then is, why does this happen? Part of what happens is we get weaker. And there's one muscle that we hardly ever use. It's on the front of our shin, and it's the one that raises our foot up. And so if you don't use it, then it gets weak, it atrophies, and you're less likely to raise your toe when you walk. Today, I'm going to give you a tibialis anterior exercise. This is something you can do in your chair at home while you're watching TV. And if I draw the alphabet with my foot, just draw the alphabet. So I'm going A. Now, you can't use your whole hip. It's got to be just the lower leg. B, C. I'm starting to feel this. And you keep doing that till you get through the alphabet a couple times. These are very simple activities that you can do that will help keep the small muscles of your ankle, including this one, keeping it strong, and also keeping those nerves in that area sensitive to movement and when you need them for balance and these sorts of things. One of the things we've also communicated to you, and it is not good, but also through the media, through images, is that in order to be active at a level to be healthy, that it has to hurt, that it has to be, toil, and it does not. Through a modest increase in daily activity, most Americans can improve their health and quality of life. So why aren't more people active? Well, it's just the wrong message. I love this picture. Look at this. Isn't this typical of America? We take the escalator instead of the stairs, even if we're going to work out. So these people are going in there to crush their body muscles, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the simple thing that they could do to help their fitness, which is to take stairs, they don't do. That is I just love this picture. What can I do to make a modest increase with an exercise that takes no time, no equipment, doesn't need a membership? I can do it if it's raining. It doesn't require me leaving my living room. There are things that we can do. Balance activities. We went through some of these last time. So if you'll stand up if you'd like to do this. You may be doing things already in an exercise class. So let's just start by turning our heads. And I want you to pay attention to what's going on with your lower legs and your feet while we do this. Just now look up and down. You're probably feeling your feet and ankles kind of working a little bit. So now close your eyes. Turn left, right, up, down. You might feel your legs a little more now. Your knees are probably locking to keep you in place. So you kind of feel a little bit going on with your feet when you do that. Well, now let's do the same thing, but let's put one foot forward and one foot back. Not right in front of each other. And you do the same thing. Well, now you're going to feel things working a little bit differently. And then, if you feel comfortable, try it with your eyes closed. You really feel your feet starting to do this to try and keep you balanced. That's what you want. You're using those nerves and those muscles to give information to your brain to help you stay balanced. You can have a seat. You can do that simple thing 5 minutes a day, and it will significantly reduce your risk of falls. But one of the things that we frequently hear about is that, oh, I sprained my ankle and it just takes me so long to get over it. Part of the reason why it hurts more is because our reaction time is slower. When we twist our ankle, we stay in that position longer. So when I was young and 20, I sprained my ankle, I was on it for just a couple milliseconds. But now I may be in that injury position 3-4 times as long. So the injury is greater, the pain is greater, the consequences are greater. So it's very important that we keep our lower body functioning well and do even just little exercises like this that can be very meaningful in terms of fall prevention.
What we like to do is we like to go out in the community, into community centers, continuing care retirement communities, and offer fall screenings. And in that setting, what we do is we ask the older adults about their medical history, their history of falls. We also have a couple simple physical function tests that we have them do that are very predictive of falls. In doing these things, then we're able to provide the older adult with feedback about their risk for falling and offer them suggestions as to things that they can do to hopefully reduce their risk of falls.
These are the winning times of the 100 meter, the 800 meter, and the marathon in 1896. Now imagine that I came up to the athletes that won these events and said, my grandfather could beat you. Well, they'd just laugh me off the face of the earth, wouldn't they? Well, it might interest you to know what the 60-plus records are for these right now. For the 100 meters, today, 60-year-olds are running it faster than the 1896 Olympic winner. They would have lost. The 800 meter, which is probably the most grueling if you've ever run that. Look at this. We're running it faster as 60-year-olds now than we did in 1896. And what about the marathon? Totally shattered that. Not only would Grandpa run it faster, but he'd be sitting there having coffee while the 1896 winner is still 10 minutes away. The reason that I bring this up is to bring home that first point about ageism and what we, in our minds, convince ourselves is not possible. And I know what you're saying. You're sitting there saying, you know, I'm just too old to start. I should have started much younger in life, okay? But my encouragement to you is those who have not been active have the most to gain. And it's about physical activity. It's about being regularly active, doing things that you enjoy, going for walks, doing things with your family, with grandchildren, if you have pets, starting hobbies. These are the secrets to staying alive.
I think the big takeaway for us in our field is that remaining physically active is critical to functional lifespan. In our view, it's not a question of how long does one live, but how long does one live well? How long is one able to maintain their independence? And this is where really there's a convergence between our message and the message of Life Support Medical. We both come at it from different perspectives in terms of us wanting people to behave in ways that are going to keep them functional, and keep them active, and keep them doing the things that will enhance their quality of life. And in the case of the products of Life Support Medical, the point is to provide them with the other types of supports in their built environment that will allow them to remain independent and to get help if they need it. One thing that's very interesting about human nature is we oftentimes wait until there's a problem before we address it. Oftentimes people won't go get grab bars for their bathroom until they've fallen in the bathroom. By getting the word out, by going out into these communities, by doing these talks, and by just public education, public awareness, hopefully we'll be able to prevent medical emergencies, including falls.